Hi guys, this is David Negrin, host of the Script Podcast and executive director of the NYC Screenwriters Collective. I'm excited to announce that we've created a Patreon campaign for the Script. Patreon is like a Kickstarter, but it allows you to give ongoing pledges every month and receive ongoing rewards. Of course, the Script Podcast will continue to be free, but we're just asking for a little help. So please, check out all our rewards, join our inner circle. Become a patron of the Script Podcast at patreon.com/thescript.
The man who lives in here gets arrested a lot. These are the rooms we're not supposed to go in. But let's go anyway. Could you give us some change, please? The doctor said we have asthma and we gotta eat ice cream right away.
Here you go.
New job?
Yeah.
If you're working, who's looking after Moonee?
You're not my father.
I don't want to be your father.
You can't treat me like this.
You don't think everybody knows what's up, Haley? Everybody.
She's about to cry. I can always tell when adults are about to cry. Why is my mom yelling?
Just talking, they gotta figure something out.
I took you on a safari. Whoa. Let's go, come on.
This is the Script Podcast, where we believe story moves pages, story moves product, story moves people. Tonight we're doing the Florida Project. With me tonight, Alka Kushalani.
Hi, David.
Good to see you.
You too.
We were originally going to do Justice League, and then we decided to do an indie drama because
Thank you.
we don't do that enough.
Thanks so much.
Yeah, and we're not just all about the hits, getting downloads, We're about, we want to be a great film podcast too,
Yeah,
so.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So it's interesting that this one came up. There was a couple of options, but the Florida Project is Shaun Baker's second movie. Shaun Baker, you may know from Tangerine in 2015.
Yes, which was terrific.
Another terrific,
Yes.
strong drama. I think I made a lot of notes while I was watching the Florida Project that reminded me of Tangerine. They're both they're both such great stories about relationships. Actually, I think relationships about women particularly.
Yeah, this is, one of the great advocates for the underclass, right? This is, both of these films, I think, are about people in the margins. And I will go further and I'll say that these films are, like, Tangerine is a film that's like neorealistic view of transgender people, and that's like the Obama version. That's like the Obama strain of Shaun Baker filmingmaking, where
In what way? Obama how?
It's people of color, it's people on the margins in this, in this strange little world that is kind of gaining a voice, right? And here, this is the Trump version.
Oh wow!
Which is
way to
Shaun Baker
politicize things right away.
in Trump's America, where we have a white underclass that's being explored, that's being kind of, marginalized and is being given a voice.
That's tremendous. I hadn't thought about it that way. I think both marginalized class groups of people are what brought on these last two elections, if you were going to talk about it politically.
Yes.
But I want to talk a lot more about the cinema than the politics of it. I think, so just quickly, tonight we're going to do 5 segments, the Script Instant Review,
the genre analysis, a structure analysis, some screenwriting craft problems, and then how it should have ended if you would have changed the ending. Although this was pretty solid. Pretty
Yeah, I
well
don't know
done.
if we're going to disagree like we sometimes do, right?
I think
this is going to be like a podcast.
I think this film there will be a lot of agreement on. Beautifully done. In fact, I sat down after this and I was like, well, we gotta figure out some ways to improve it, or I have to try to find ways to fix it. But it was so well done and beautifully shot and everything. Regardless of budget, I mean, I wanted to start out as I always do, just talk about the artists. Shaun Baker is the writer-director.
Right.
He did Tangerine. Before that, he did a film called Starlet.
Right. This is like an overnight success who's
Yes.
been working for a long time. This is like your classic overnight success
Yeah.
who has been slogging away
Yeah.
for years upon years and is now breaking through.
Right. Yeah. I mean, the budget for Starlet was like $88,000. The budget for Tangerine was $100,000, and it made like $700,000, which is why it's it gets that that festival buzz.
And shot entirely on the iPhone 5S.
That's right. I think they did some post production, as you do.
And
but it looks great.
No, and you would never know. And it feels like early Danny Boyle, doesn't it?
I like that. I like that comparison. Tangerine was like there was some verite stuff there, and I think we used that in our final sequence in the Florida project, because I don't think he paid to go to Disneyland.
No, wasn't there a film that was shot entirely? I never saw this film, so I shouldn't even bring it up. But what was that? Edge of Tomorrow? Not Edge of Tomorrow. It was something.
What are you talking about?
There was a film that was shot, not his film. What was it? No.
Where was it? What do you finish your sentence?
It was a film called Search for Tomorrow. Something for Tomorrow. It was shot in black and white, guerrilla style, in Disney World. It was another indie. It was not George Clooney, but
okay.
No,
Search for
Clooney was
Tomorrow.
No. Something.
Escape from Tomorrow.
Escape from Tomorrow.
Okay.
It's something like that.
Okay.
Something like that. But I think that's the way you shoot at Disney. I think you shoot at Disney like they do beautiful 35mm throughout, and then they go back to the iPhone or something. Escape from Tomorrow. See, I knew it was something
2013
like that.
indie dark fantasy psychological horror. Oh, look at you,
yeah,
Randy
it was
Moore.
I mean, I didn't see it, so but
I was bringing it up because the final image for, we're jumping ahead, but the final image for a Florida project is this escape to Disneyland, right?
Wow.
And I thought it was shot in a very similar verite style as all of Tangerine was shot.
Yes, I think, but
And
Tangerine was far more dynamic. I think here's the thing about Tangerine. Tangerine was like, it moved, the camera swoops in and out, and it does, especially in the beginning. And then this is like so disciplined. I mean, it's these are both beautiful films in very different ways, but this is like truly disciplined filmmaking. This is, like real film. The colors are beautiful. Like it's a very different style. I mean, the filmmaking is less like I feel like you can't really point at the filmmaker as, making the same style film. I think narratively you can say this is the same filmmaker. I don't think it's
I'll agree. Yeah. Narratively very similar filmmaker, but he had some abilities to shoot a more cinematic film now. Yeah. Obviously, with this, he got
some money.
Yeah, he got money. The budget for the Florida project was $2 million. It's made 4.4 so far at the box office. So you're doing all right in the indie drama schedule.
I mean, you could have come up with a better title.
I would. What do you think it means? We're here talking about it. I don't know what the Florida project means.
It sounds like a working title to me. I have no idea why it was called the Florida Project. I would think this would be somebody who could come up with
a better
something
title.
Else. I think that's my biggest gripe. Maybe.
Maybe
we'll
your only gripe. But I made a note of everything because I have some family in Florida. I'm not from Florida. I'm from New York, but I made a note anytime I felt something that was particularly Floridian throughout. So, because it did have a feel of the place.
Oh yeah.
So maybe I'll bring up some of that later. But let's do quickly one up, one down. What did you love about the film? What was your biggest up and your? We have time. We can do 2 if you've got that many.
I think, okay, not only does this film capture this moment that is the end of childhood, which I think it captures so beautifully, like narratively, but it also, like I was saying, captures this moment in time. You know, this is a film of its time. And this moment where we are talking about the forgotten white underclass, this is a very, very intimate view of that group. And I think it's very beautiful. It's not even, you know, there are people who might say he's a compassionate filmmaker, but I think it's beyond that. It's so intimate. It's so, you know, it's so real that I think that is its real accomplishment.
I like intimacy as like a watchword for this film, because it, you know, to me, if you're doing an independent film, if you're doing an indie drama, as we all are, we've all written some, we're all trying to sell them. How do you sell them, right? You have to have, the relationships have to be so powerfully portrayed and escalated throughout the story. I think you need a little more than just relationships. You also need a great subculture that you're exploring that America hasn't seen yet. That's part of making a high quality drama feature film these days. You need a subculture. You need a group of people who, like you said, it's timely, that we want to talk about, that we want to explore. And so I think this film did both of those. And I think you need, this is the genre discussion I meant to get into later. But you know, indie drama needs great relationships. It needs an interesting subculture, and it also needs like a great ending, a great solid ending. Bringing up Short Term 12 is another great indie drama that I loved. That's about foster kids, and it has these amazing relationships between the foster counselors and the kids, as well as the romantic one between the two counselors. And then it has this, so it has this great subculture, has these great relationships, and then it has a great third act, right, where you're like, well, this is a drama. What could possibly be? How could I possibly be surprised? So I think, to me, the Florida Project was a little bit somewhere between Short Term 12 and American Honey. Did you see American Honey?
I didn't.
Okay, so American Honey is about sort of that different age group of the lost, like 15 to 23-year-old white poor culture. I think it was a lot of. I think it took place in Texas a bit, but I appreciate the intimacy thing, because relationships, I think, are everything in a drama like this. What else do you have?
Well, I think, you know, going deeper, it's also like you're talking about place being so and being a character, and I think it's like even the economy, you know, the surrounding economy is such a character. You always have this like pressing need for money, right? Yeah. There's like this urgent need.
Oh, it's so well done. You're starting to count the dollars. I was counting the dollars.
Yeah.
When they go to that hotel that's $48 and that's instead of 38
it's 45
or 45 instead of 38.
Okay.
And that was a huge deal. It was $45 a night instead of $38 a night, and she's flipping out about that. You start counting dollars with them.
Yeah, it's like, and even the like storefronts, they're grotesque.
Yeah.
They're huge. And Disneyland itself, we're in the shadow of the great city here, you know, which is like this artificial, you know, absolutely commercial.
It's a castle. And it's great. I think a great filmmaking choice not to show it until the end. It's talked about as this place that some of the tourists are going
you feel
to.
it, right? You feel it. There's this business with the bands.
The bands.
You know, there's this couple, this honeymooning couple who kind of comes in because their
from
friend
Brazil, because they're crazy about Disney World in Brazil.
Yeah, they're going to honeymoon in Disney World.
Yeah.
And it's a very interesting take on the economy around this group. I think that's there's so many layers and nuances to this really kind of simple narrative.
But our film doesn't take us to Disney World. It takes us to Orange World and Wizard's Gift Shop and the Twisty Treat, right?
Yeah.
And they walk around.
Like Tangerine happened in Donut Time.
Yes,
right?
Thank you. I love that the third act of that movie is in a donut shop.
Yeah.
And there's a big altercation at the end of the Florida project. That's in the diner, right? She takes Haley takes Moonee to the diner to confront her friend. Is it Ashley? Yeah, Ashley, and they make a scene there with the food. And by ordering so much and having a burping contest, she's like using Moonee against Ashley, even though she doesn't know why their friendship has gone the way it has. But it's like making the diner a place of conflict, making the donut shop a place of conflict. Yeah. That's great independent filmmaking, but it also comes organically out of the cultures that are being portrayed.
And the narrative. And it's absolutely true to what we're seeing here. And you never see the seams. That's the other part of this, is that, we were talking about our breakdown, which we'll get to. But you never see the seams of, okay, this has got to be the break into two. This has got to be, it just kind of sneaks up on you, and you're just processing these little vignettes in a way, these moments, these intimate moments that kind of are, you're being propelled towards some inevitable end.
Yeah,
right?
I think it's
but you're not ahead of him. That's never.
No, I think it's a tribute to the kind of verite filmmaking we've seen, like Robert Altman stuff, where it's a group of people that you get to know and you're following them on the journey. I walked out and I was just like, who's the protagonist? I was like, who's the protagonist? Because clearly Moonee is this central figure, and we do end up seeing the film through Moonee's eyes. But Haley is such a huge presence, and Bobby's not the protagonist, but he's also this main character. He's a main character, and we see some of his own plights that have nothing to do with Haley and Moonee. So it's really a little bit like a mini ensemble.
Right. Right.
Do you have it down?
Oh my goodness. I'm digging here. Okay. But if we're talking screenwriting, there's this weird hanging subplot with the guy who's helping Bobby. Do you remember him? Now, this is a guy, we were talking about Get Out earlier.
The tall black man?
No. The white guy who's helping him move the matches. He's helping him move the ice
my
maker.
Goodness. Oh, I thought that was his son.
I don't know who that was.
You're right. That was like a hanging C or D plot.
I have no idea who that was, but I think it was at one point they had more story for Bobby.
I think you're right.
And these were the loose threads that they left. And in a way,
and the discipline.
And I'm digging because it's I didn't really mind. I was like, oh, Bobby has a life.
Yeah, I think they were going for that, him being Bobby's estranged son. Bobby has one line to him that said, "Don't tell her I apologize," like he had told their mom.
Right.
That some old argument, which was nice. I just think the fact that Bobby has a lot going on all the time is really important to his character.
Right.
And that there's that great moment when the power goes out and everybody's super pissed at him, and he puts it on, and then he gets all these congratulations, and somebody says, "I love you." And he's like, "I love you too." Like he's a rock star. Like a rock star would tell, "I love you, New York." You know?
I give you light.
Yeah, I give you light. Yeah.
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 No, I think that the other thing is, this idea of the neglected kid, the unfit mother. I mean, maybe we've seen that before, but I think we haven't seen this neglected kid. I don't think we've seen this, unfit mother. I mean, we have maybe seen this, but in this context, I think the context is so strong, and I think the storytelling is so strong that I feel like I'm picking at straws here.
Yeah, I thought it is an easy way to create tension and jeopardy by using children characters, right? It's because children there's a lot more stakes, there's a lot more danger, right?
Yeah.
And I don't think that Shaun Baker took any cheap shots with that, because there's really cheap. I mean, I like Inarritu's films, but in Babel he has a whole subplot where there's just like 2 lost children in the desert and they're gonna die, and the tension is like instantly there, and Inarritu's trying to get you, and he like is obviously using it as a mechanism to raise your heart rate, because you're worried about these children and they're lost, and the housekeeper abandons them. So I don't think he took any cheap shots like that. I kept waiting for Moonee to be in more physical danger,
like alligators coming out of the tall grass.
Well, they mentioned the alligators.
Yeah, every time they went into the grass, I was like, oh, here it comes.
And I think that was helpful, because that creates it. And I think had maybe we'd seen a tail at some point, it might have been interesting.
No, I loved it. It was just the danger of being alone, these wandering children. Yeah. And it's, there's something about that whole scenario and the fact that they are so young. These kids are like 5 and 6 years old.
And Moonee is so precocious. She has all the best lines in the film.
And running through parking lots. I mean, there's danger around every corner.
There is. Right. And your mom.
Yeah.
Right. So did you feel like
I wanted to protect
the kid? Like you wanted to put some boundaries in when there weren't any? Because there's clearly no boundaries.
It did stress me out, but not as like I did not view this. I rarely view things like, oh, I'm a mom and I have this particular lens that I'm always looking at things. I kind of get carried away like everybody else, right? I mean, this. I
didn't mean to put you in a box.
But I liked the mom. Speaking of the moms, though, I liked Haley a lot more as we went along. You see the impossibility of her situation, and you see how ill-equipped she is. She's like 20 years old or something,
Yeah,
for this
but
task.
there's a lot of
and there's so much love in her.
There is a lot of moments where you see her taking care of Moonee.
Yes.
She puts Moonee on her back at one point when Moonee's tired. She's sort of not great. She's ill-equipped.
Yes.
But she's having dance parties with them. When she decides to take her photos for prostitution, she includes her daughters in it, right? She's like, oh, we're going to do bathing suit selfies.
Yeah.
She includes her, and Moonee loves it, right? And
there's so much love and attachment between those two that's also kind of unconventional. They're almost like peers, this like 5-6-year-old girl and her 20-year-old mother, that I was so, I was very torn about this person, this character, which is great storytelling. You should never figure somebody out. Like, she wasn't like Precious's mom, right? Precious's mom is like,
she's an antagonist. She's like
get Precious out.
Yeah.
Okay.
Get her out of there.
But Moonee's mom, it's like, when they do try to get her out of there.
Thank you. That's so important.
It's such a mixed bag, right? You're like, but does she really belong away from this person? And you kind of understand that the two of them together are right, and then apart, it's going to be an absolute show,
When it comes to the finale, when they Child Services decides to take Moonee away, you are conflicted.
Yep.
And in a good way, because they have good reasons, and you've been judging her the whole time. I was judging the motherhood the whole time, but also feeling the love too.
Yeah.
And so you are rightfully worried that knowing that this is a bad thing for them,
Right.
knowing that Haley screwed up a number of times, 100 times, and that's probably something she needs to become a better person, better mother, is she needs to know what consequences are. She's a kid in that way. She doesn't feel consequences. She never thought taking Moonee away was a real possibility.
Yeah, she is a child.
Yeah.
In many, many ways, and I think she is all impulse. She is all id.
Yeah.
You know, and she is very, very like. And never once do we get the feeling like, oh, she would rather be, off without Moonee. Like Moonee is so essential to her.
She would never. There was a moment where Ashley and her are in the pool, and Ashley asked her about some guy, and she says, "Yeah, he didn't. He's not into kids."
Yeah.
And it was not. It was not. It was a deal breaker, even for Haley. It was like Moonee's my everything. There's no the bond there, even though they never have like some cutesy like kissy face moment.
Yeah.
You know that the bond there, which is a tribute to both actors.
Yeah.
You know, they were amazing.
Really, really
amazing.
and non-actors, right?
Is that right?
They're
I didn't know.
non-actors. So Shaun Baker had. He had gotten the funding, he had gotten the script, he'd gotten everything together, and he had told everyone, like, look, if we don't find these people, we're not going to go. And, like, slowly he started to, I think he got Moonee, that actress, through some casting director in Florida, and he found Haley on Instagram.
No kidding.
Like, it was...
I didn't recognize her at all.
I don't think she's an actress. She is. Neither of them have done anything. And Moonee is, I think, this Brooklyn. What is her last name?
I'm checking it out right now. Moonee's name is the actor is Brooklynn Prince.
Right.
And Haley is Bria Venati.
Yeah.
Never heard of her.
And
she was fantastic. Were
Prince
those
like
her real tats? I kept thinking because her tattoos are such a presence.
She was absolutely
amazing.
I think she sprang out of obscurity like that. And Moonee, it's like, this is Tatum O'Neal in Paper Moon. This is like one of those performances.
Real.
This is Anna Paquin in the piano. This is, that prodigious child actor.
It was so powerful in the end when she shows up at Jancy's door and starts crying.
Right.
You're like, you thought that Moonee was immune to being a child, to crying. You know, you don't see it the whole film, and then
she is.
And she has to say goodbye to her friends, and she starts to cry, and you're like, she is a little girl. It's amazing.
Yeah, this is lovely, lovely performances. But he got them out of everyone. I mean, that's and that's I would say growth from Tangerine, because as good as Tangerine was, there were moments where you saw a few of those seams just here and there, whereas here it's like you are absolutely in it. Those people are absolutely real. They are living in that world. You would put your hand on a Bible and swear it.
There were so many great things about this film that my up is going to end up I'm going to pick the visuals that he chose to use to make this because it was his first great cinematic outing. He was doing a cinematic trick when he did Tangerine, shooting it on that phone. But now he started to shoot cinema. The imagery, little things like the helicopter that keeps coming in and out.
Yeah, what was that?
It was like, that's something that feels Floridian. It also is like this thing they all look at, and they like give it the middle finger at one point.
Again, the economy, right? There's an economy around them that they're
much
hyper aware of. Yes,
yeah, much
and
wealthier.
you don't know what that helicopter.
But in another way, a helicopter is like some kind of bird or a dream that could escape you.
Yes.
Could escape you. I kept thinking about how purple the magic castle is, right? And I kept thinking, well, this is a shithole. It shouldn't be so well kept. Except that's part of who Bobby is. He keeps that place in all together. Bobby's like the magic man. Everyone who lives at the Magic Castle right, is in the same similar shitty situation that
Right.
Haley and Moonee are in, and he understands that he has to like have them stay once a month out of the hotel so that they can't be squatters, and he's playing it by the rules, but he's also helping them out.
He's a father figure. He is a father figure,
yeah.
the eyes and ears. He is like the guard dog. He's everything.
He helps them in that and you thought he was like by the rules kind of guy, and when it came to the point in the second half of the second act where Haley had actually ripped off a guy for a couple $100 on the bracelets, Bobby comes to her defense and uses his ingenuity and says, well, I know why you had 4 bracelets, because he probably had some hookers,
Yeah.
for the other bracelets that he's taken to
No, that was for his family. He had 4 bracelets because he came with his family, and he decided to have a little something on the side.
on the side, right?
Yeah.
Right. And so, but that's when Bobby, we realize that he's not just a guy who plays it by the rules. He is like a protector,
Yeah.
and that it's so well done. And for me, when we get into structure, the midpoint kind of began. I think we agree the midpoint. You were telling me where the midpoint starts.
It was when the condos are on fire.
Yeah, I think when
Right.
when Moonee and her friends set the condos on fire and they
Right.
realize what they did was wrong.
Right.
And for Moonee, who I think is our protagonist, the stakes are finally raised, and there's real danger in
Being found out.
being that comes from their being unattended children. They start to see, first of all, as all street kids do eventually,
Right.
that they are on their own,
Right.
and that when they fuck around, sometimes there are consequences.
Right.
But right before that, the pedophile shows up, or the old weird guy,
Yeah.
and Bobby knows him exactly right away.
He drops
He's-
that can of paint,
right.
gets down off his ladder.
And he's nice to the guy. He's like, come with me. Oh, you want a soda? And he has that whole
Yeah.
conversation with him.
It's
And he
great.
waits for him to get the soda. He opens the soda, and then he slaps it out of his hand. He's
Yeah.
like, don't you ever come back here.
Right.
Because he knows that's the only way to deal with somebody like that.
Yeah.
So, great job by Willem Dafoe. One of my all-time favorite actors.
Yeah. And there's just such kindness and dignity and compassion in this character.
Yeah.
And it's he's one of those, he's a pillar here and kind of doesn't change at all. He's that
Mentor.
he's the mentor.
Yeah.
And he's just an absolute there's nothing bad about Bobby.
He
There's just
wanted,
like,
I kept wondering how he would behave when the DCS comes, or when the child services comes, and he stays out of it. He tries to help Moonee
because he knows where Haley is headed
Yeah.
is no good place.
Yeah.
He knows this break needs to happen now.
It's also hinted at that they found the security found the fact that there were she had 9 clients go to her room, and I'm wondering, you're left wondering, did he supply that?
I didn't wonder that at all.
You didn't wonder?
No. Because earlier in the film, you see him kicking out a woman who's doing this, right? You remember? There's a woman who's like, no, I didn't do, and he says, I saw it on the security camera.
Right.
You're out.
Right.
And we don't do that here. And so he kicks her out. So he knows what's going on with Haley.
But did he call the DCS, or did Ashley do it? Because
It's Ashley.
Ashley totally
For
called
sure,
it. And so it was
Ashley.
the complexity of Ashley called it in, and he had the security tapes. So they
Yeah.
both sort of ended up with it. But
Yeah, but he was saying, I think his tact was something different in the sense that his response to Haley's prostituting herself was, from now on, any guests of yours are going to leave an ID at the desk.
that's right. Yeah.
From now on,
he didn't call the police, and he
Yeah.
didn't kick her out like he did
he didn't,
the other person. yeah.
because he's taken on this role of watchful father figure,
Yeah.
right? So
So my down would be that looking at Tangerine, I see how economical filmmaker Shaun Baker could be, and I think the Florida project didn't need to be 2 hours.
Yes.
I think he could have tightened it. I think
Yeah.
he could have done it.
It did drag a bit, but
He only in the second half, towards and the third act, and he started to repeat some images again, and I don't felt Tangerine felt completely bare bones and perfectly just what you need.
You could not take out a frame.
You know,
right?
exactly. You can't take out a frame.
Yeah.
I feel the same way about Moonlight. Moonlight was also something that was so perfectly economical that every image mattered, every scene mattered, and when it ended, you were like, "Oh my God, it ended right there." So I think
this dragged a bit, but it was also like, I don't know. I kind of gave it that leeway because these are like the dog days of summer too.
Yeah.
You know, and summer drags.
So I love that. I love that you said that.
It's like there's something in that atmosphere that was also kind of like the repetitiveness of these kids running around and wandering through these parking lots and, you know, looking for fun or trouble, whichever way.
I wrote down, I was thinking, I wish I would have seen this film in the summertime because I was loving being transported, and I was like, I wish I could just mesh my world. Right now it's super winter in New York City. It's freezing out.
Right.
I wish I could have melded my world that much more into this summer that Moonee was having.
Right.
And I like that you said that it was slow because I wrote down that when there were so many moments of play that Moonee and her friends were doing, play without toys, play without entertainment, play that's totally unsupervised because they have no money. Like when they start speaking and yelling into the fan and making the sounds.
Yeah.
And it just clicked for me. It's like waiting for Godot. It's idleness and boredom produces like great human moments, and it reveals character.
Yeah, and if you look at, that's the accomplishment here, is that you have really a string of moments that somehow amount to like a full-on narrative with tension and conflict and you know, where you're being propelled towards something. And I think that's
the danger,
the
though.
great accomplishment here.
I agree.
It's just moments, and you're watching it in a way because you're seeing people in a way that you don't usually see them, and very up close and personal. And then it comes to this inevitable end.
Yeah.
And you are like, oh, wow, yeah, this has the payoff of traditional narrative. It has all the, you know, it has a lot of the fixings when you think about it.
I was so worried Haley wouldn't flip out because for a while she's pretty calm about it. And I'm like, she would not allow this to happen. She's going to take her kid and run or something.
She has the zinger,
you know?
At the end. She's like, you let my kid run off and I'm the unfit one. You know, like she just like nails them. It's true.
It was great. It was great. Good for her.
Yeah.
And but it's Moonee's film, so she gets the final image, and she and Jancy, she's made a friend, like a lifelong friend, and Jancy somehow steals her off to Disney World.
Right. And Jancy also has her narrative arc because she leads for once, right? At
Bravo.
the end, she
Go
leads.
Jancy.
And that ending, okay, so somewhere in my memory is Bicycle Thieves, right?
Wow.
And that ending where they kind of walk into a crowd is the Bicycle Thieves ending. That's
Bicycle Thieves. The boy walks into the crowd that's taking his father.
No, I
it's
think
after the father.
No, the father and he walk in together.
Okay.
And it's kind of like you don't, again, like this uncertain future. Like they still don't have a bicycle. They still have all the economic pressure.
Right,
like,
it's after the bicycle's
like
been taken back. Yeah.
They're walking off, and that freedom is kind of like, you know.
Because at the end of the day, this movie, the Florida Project, is an optimistic film. It is a hopeful film. It starts with Celebration, that music. Mm-hmm. It has like over the credits, they got Celebrate Good Times over for like 4 or 5 minutes, right? And you're like, this is an optimistic film. And so at no point do you think it's going to end as a bummer. And it ends as all great screenplays, to surprisingly inevitable, right?
Yeah, it is inevitable, but at the same time, do you think that was an upending?
Yeah, I think it was an upending. Just because they were able to the child services is taking Moonee, but they kept emphasizing it's temporary. It's temporary. We have a home for you. There's another family, and I think Haley got the sense that she stepped one step over the line, and she wasn't gonna fuck. I get the sense that she's gonna get her back soon. But even more than that, they are victorious because Haley gets the last word in with the DCS, and Jancy and Moonee get to run off to Disney World, and that's an optimistic, hopeful outlook. That's a positive. That says, you know what, shit's gonna go down, continue to go down. But these little girls and their mom, they've got, maps of the world on their faces. Like they are so wise, even at their age, even though they're naive in other ways. They're
gonna escape the system.
They're gonna
the system
barrel through it. They're gonna make all the mistakes, but they're gonna push through. That's my perception. That's why, and it ends with like good, happy music, and it's Disney World, and I don't feel like they were doing it ironically to say, oh, this is going to be so bad. I felt like they were saying, this is the spirit of these little girls and this young woman. So, let's see, what else? You want to talk structure?
Sure.
We did genre, we did instant review. Let's just do the major beats. Setup, inciting incident, break into two, midpoint.
I think those are important in a film like this because
Yeah.
I think, like we were saying, you're never ahead of him. It kind of sneaks up on you. It's kind of a meandering storyline, but it
Absolutely.
does hit its essential beats.
And this is where young screenwriters or beginner screenwriters would be like, well, I don't want to do a traditional Hollywood movie and say, structure is not about a Hollywood studio film. It's about great storytelling. And a film like this, because it's meandering
Right.
and because it's plotting a little bit at times, and it goes off on tangents here and there, it has to hit these beats well. And
Yeah.
it does.
It does.
It does.
It really does.
We get a great setup in Kissimmee, Florida, where which is very Floridian, right? With Haley and Moonee. Actually, we open with Moonee and her friends, right? That's
we
our
open
opening
with
image.
A community, right? Well, the opening image, yeah, it's Moonee and Scooty. Scooby, yeah.
Her
Whatever that kid's name
partner
is.
in crime, yeah. The
Right.
kid with the great idea to put the pillow in the fireplace. In the fireplace.
Yeah.
I kept thinking, okay,
No, that was Moonee's idea, wasn't it?
No, he got
she's
the
like,
pillow, though.
Oh yeah, he got the
he
pillow.
got the pillow
because
because I kept thinking,
idea.
Moonee was like, "Yo, we have a fireplace. Bring the lighter."
Lighter.
And I was like, "Thank God, there's got to be no wood in that fireplace. This is not going to work."
Right.
Then they cut to there's a pillow they're burning in there.
Fantastic. Yeah, I think
Leave it to kids.
the setup is this community, right?
Yeah.
Because there is a community in this like motel, this like downtrodden like ramshackle motel.
It's like the
scheme
the
outside.
Chelsea Hotel
It's-
or the
yeah.
$1 Million Hotel. Yeah.
Like when these kids get into trouble for spitting on this car, the woman, Jancy's grandmom, who she's living with, makes them clean it up, and she and Haley become friendly.
That's right. Oh, but they at first there's conflict, and it made me think immediately how great Shaun Baker is at relationships right off, because right in Tangerine, the main character is basically like kidnapped this other prostitute and is like
Right.
beating her along the way,
Yeah.
and slowly at one point they hang out in a bathroom and she cleans up the girl.
Yeah.
And they become friendly, and,
Right.
and they did the same thing in that sense.
Yes.
Right? These two moms are at
Yeah,
odds.
good
Your
point.
kids spit on me, my
and
car.
they somehow bound. And there is this community at the bottom of the socioeconomic ladder,
Absolutely.
and that's the
You got a
dignity
cigarette?
that he
You got a cigarette?
that he affords them. He's like, the whole setup is that there is this world where people are interdependent and their lives are intertwined, and their kids play together, and they live in this place.
It's very communal. I like that you mentioned that the kids play together, because in more, like tribal communities, the parents look after other people's kids, and the kids are grouped together, and it feels more like a commune or a tribe, right?
Right. And our inciting incident, what do you have there, David?
I have, when their friend Dickie can't come out to play, Moonee goes to find Jancy to play. And then they go on this tour together. And basically, I had Moonee is showing Jancy the town. She shows her the Orange World, the Wizard gift shop, the Twisty treat, and they walk around the Magic Castle, and then the kids go on a waffle run. Like, that's the first set of like trials in this new world. That's what I had. What do you think?
I disagree with you.
Oh, okay. What do you got?
We finally disagree about something.
Sure.
So my inciting incident is that when we realized, like, Haley is receiving some kind of social service, right?
What moment was that?
She's in the office with some official, government official,
Yeah.
and she's saying, just give me the bus passes.
The bus passes.
And I am looking for work, and blah, blah, blah. So the wheels have started.
That's if Haley's the protagonist. I don't think Haley's our protagonist. You're right. You're right.
I feel like
that plot, Haley's plot about I need money is important.
I feel like they're dual protagonists. Can I say that?
I hate to say that, but if it's an ensemble film, it can be. You won't have dual. You'll have multiple. You could even say that. Bobby is his own protagonist, right? So that everybody has their own 3-act structure. But you're right. The in a sense that if you're tracking the plot of We Need Money all the time, which is Haley's main plot,
or the system, the threat of the system kind of swooping in and either arresting them or pulling them apart or doing something, that is another. Like, I think that is a thread that kind of, becomes stronger and stronger as the narrative progresses. And so that's what I had. But that's
Moonee is too big a presence for her not to be the main character. But you're right. There's a lot.
We have her point of view a lot of times.
Yeah,
but
there's
is
a lot.
She the main character?
Is she actively like doing stuff? Is she going after?
It
goals.
Could be the two of them together. And anyway, so
yeah, no, I mean it's a good point, but it makes sense if we're looking for so then the break into 2 is what for you?
The break into 2 is when the kids turn off the power. That's when we kind of are confronted with the fact that they are totally unsupervised and they can get into trouble.
I mean, for me, the adventures begin when they take Jancy on the tour, and then eventually the Brazilian couple shows up, the church car shows up, and they have the food. They get food. Then they have the tete-a-tete with Bobby about the drip test with the 2 ice creams. Right. I mean, to me, this is like a series of trials for Moonee, and Moonee is like a superhero. She can best all of these things, and they do the ice cream thing where they're both licking it in the lobby, and they're not allowed to. If he says he's previously, and this is great screenwriting because you don't know what the gambit is, because Bobby's watching them tight, and they're both taunting him while they lick it, and then one drop falls, and he's like, "That's it, you're out." So clearly, like screenwriting is so much about what has happened before a scene, right? Where they clearly they had some kind of, he said, you can't eat that in here because you're going to drip. Why? Because you're going to drip. And she's like, what if we don't drip? And then they start doing it. And I mean, it's well done. But to me, those are the fun and games of the beginning of Act 2.
What do you think the B story is?
I had the B story being Bobby. The relationship with Bobby, when the power goes out, to me, that was the A and the B story sort of colliding.
I had Haley and Ashley.
Haley and Ash, I thought isn't that the A story?
I think that B story comes in. It's like
What's
a
your A
constant
story?
thread. The A story is Haley and Moonee and their life in this place,
Yeah.
right?
And so
And that B story comes in
their
and
relationship.
that relationship that she has with Ashley, which at first is
Oh, the
like a
relationship
really,
with Ashley.
yeah,
Okay.
which is at first a, you know, again, an interdependent, mutually beneficial relationship until Ashley wants out, right? And that kind of sets
You
things
know,
in motion for the.
I think our disagreement is actually really. I think it's showing that Moonee has her own plot and Haley has her own plot, and they both have little B stories, because Moonee's B story is absolutely the relationship with Bobby, right? And that he becomes this mentor and this like play character, this playmate. And then you're right, Haley has Ashley as her friend
Right.
in the B story, and that relationship's important. But Ashley never like directly impacts, is directly playing with Moonee, and
So we are making a
but
case for a
Bobby-
dual protagonist.
well, multi-plot film. I'll say that Duel is saying that you can that there's a single A plot and there are two protagonists. If you're saying there's multiple plots in the film, each can have its own protagonist.
Like you think they're parallel protagonists, is what you're saying.
Yeah. It's not a single plot. Like they have, like Moonee has her A plot, and Haley has her A plot, and Bobby has his A plot.
Okay.
But okay, so this is where structure is gonna get it a little.
Yeah, but it's
itchy.
satisfying. It's actually like we're both saying it adds up. Like in both
It's-
of these, like
the
very
beats are
disparate
so there.
equations.
For all of these characters, the beats are happening at the right time, and they're escalating, and they're doing everything. It's just this is such a great ensemble, and we're finding and that.
Right.
You have no trouble tracking the story at all. So,
Right.
Doing structure is helpful as an exercise. But
Right.
Midpoint,
The condo's on fire.
yeah. I mean,
Agree on
we,
that.
we agree. Yeah, I think I was thinking maybe the when the pedophile showed up, because that was the first sense that there's actually real danger. But I think the condos on fire is so much a bigger
And it sets things off in a
concept.
different direction.
It
right?
integrates
breaks-
everybody's stories.
Yeah, it breaks this friendship between Ashley and Haley, because Ashley says, I don't want Scooty hanging out with Moonee anymore. And it also, like, creates more tension in the sense that Ashley becomes a bit of an antagonist,
Absolutely.
right? In the
Friends
second half.
friends become enemies,
Yeah.
enemies become friends, right?
Right.
By the end, Jancy's mom is a friend. So then where's your low point? Your all is lost.
My all is lost.
For me, the all is lost is all of these plots have a bunch of all is lost. A great all is lost moment brings all your plots together and have your low point for all of them, in succession. It may not be one scene, but a couple, like 2 or 3 scenes all together, where the low point of the film for all the plots and all the main characters happens together.
I could go with that, or I could also say that it's this moment when they've gone into Ashley's diner and they've ordered all this food and they've made her pack it for them, and they're walking out, and Haley drops the food and kicks it, and you realize that friendship is dead. That
Absolutely.
friendship is gone.
Yeah.
And that's the all is lost.
Yeah, that's what I had. I have Haley confronts Ashley. They have nothing to discuss. And then so Haley charges the friendship, even makes it even worse.
Right.
With by humiliating her with all the serve me kind of shit.
Right.
And then she throws the food away anyway. At the same moment, a scene right before that, there's a big physical fight in the parking lot, and Haley gets out her phone because she wants to put it on World Star. And then right after that, Moonee has this fight with his son. I think it was his son, where he's like, "Tell her I didn't wish her anything," And so that's a low, So not Moonee. Bobby has the fight with his son.
Right.
Bobby has a low point. Haley has a low point. And Moonee and Jancy get caught in the rain. There's that beautiful moment where they go so far that they don't get back in time, and they're caught in the rain. And that's as much danger as she ever really gets in. There's no actual alligator out there, but she's a child, and she's wet, and she's cold, and she's a little lost. And that, for Moonee, who's a superhero, is a low point. Also, right after that, Bobby forces them to move apartments, and he puts down the gauntlet, and he says, "We need to settle up by Friday, so that money needs to be here by Friday."
Right. I mean, and that's the whole. That dark night of the soul is also, when the perfume business is busted by the cops.
Yep.
Bobby kicks her out. She resorts to prostitution and then they're selling those bands. It's kind of all unraveling. It's kind of all like she had her head above water up to this point, and now I think it's all downhill from here.
Yeah. Our third act, how would you sum it up? I mean, the ending is the conflict with the DCS.
Right.
And but before that, I think the third act is just sort of all these ramifications coming together.
And she beats the crap out of Ashley.
Oh my God, yeah, that's third act.
The real culmination of all this stuff that's been going on in their lives.
We've seen several great shots of Moonee playing dolls in the bathtub, and for we've seen 2 or 3 times that, and you're wondering why are those images as part of the film, and then it's revealed that those were the moments that Haley was entertaining Johns in the room.
Yeah,
great filmmaking,
because
had the film not been such a visual thing with all these great images throughout, we would have known that those shots of Moonee taking a bath and playing dolls was something, but I didn't know. I didn't know that that's what Haley had resorted to.
Right. Right.
And yeah, the final fight, and a great third act is Bobby talking to the pelicans, like the birds. I don't know if they're cranes or cranes. Okay.
Yeah, I think they're cranes.
That was such a Floridian thing that he's like talking to him, and he's like, hey guys, no harm, no foul.
Yeah, it's that place keeps coming in. Like, he never lets go of that place as a character. The last shot is that place as a character, and that all of these things exist together. That place and the shadow it casts over these people, and this kind of outsized economy that looms over this smaller, tenuous economy, and it's just like all comes together in that last little bit.
I agree.
Yeah.
Do you want to sum up is there anything you would have changed in the end, or any last comments? Anything about the movie you want to say?
I think this is really one of those films that I don't know that I want to watch again, to be very honest, but it absolutely says something about this moment that we're living in and about these people, and I think gives them a voice in this neo-realistic way, like Bicycle Thieves, or the great tradition of neorealism. And I think it's an important film. I think it when I came out, I had to think a lot about it, and I had to and I think maybe that failing is that maybe I would never watch it again.
But I feel the same way about great documentaries. You feel enlightened now. You've been to a place, a people that you don't know before.
Right.
As opposed to something, a film that's more escapist, that's like a fantasy world that, oh, let me visit it again. What was it about? What was Lord of the Rings about again? Let me watch it again.
Yeah.
So I think it's not a failing of the film. I think it's also, I think it's beautifully done. I think
Absolutely.
I forgot to say my up at the beginning, I think.
Okay.
You didn't hold me to it. But my up is, and this is the thing I want to bring up now, is the amazing writing of the relationships in this film is so what being a dramatist is about, whether you're a playwright or a screenwriter, or you write graphic novels, or you write novels, or prose novels. Writing great relationships is how, everyone says, oh, I want to write great characters. Great characters are only revealed through the relationships that have pressure on them and things like that. And that is our filmmaker's like greatest gift. And you see that in Tangerine, and you see it in the Florida Project. And he never once used a cheap mechanism for this little girl character. He never pandered to us as an audience ever. We were amazed by this little girl. We were surprised by her mother.
But it was like anthropology.
Absolutely,
And we
cared about them despite their
you
flaws.
never saw the Deus Ex Machina. You know
Absolutely.
what I mean?
Yeah, and the child services coming. If I told you the log line in this movie, and then I told you at the end the child services come for the kids, you'd be like, of course that's what happened. But you don't see that coming in this execution of this story. So it was beautifully done, and cinematically, and the purple optimism, and even the one sheet being blue and purple. To me, there's such a great optimism in this film.
I'm sure there are people who will not agree with you about the ending, or about whether that ending works. I think that is the one thing that you kind of,
What about
you're
you?
left with.
You don't think it's an optimistic ending?
I would not call it optimistic. I would say it's like a collision it continues the collision of the climax. You know what I mean? It's like a continuation of that, because your heart is still in your throat. Like if they've escaped for the moment, right, to the Magic Kingdom, is that uplifting?
To me,
in that
to me,
moment?
it's what they've always done. It's what Moonee has always done. She does not escape the obstacles of their life, but she fights on. She does not have to give in and say goodbye to her friend.
That's well
she
said.
has one last attack, one last fight.
Yeah.
A runaway to Disney World moment.
And she's not going to make it easy for anybody.
Yeah.
She's not going to make it easy for
No,
anybody.
she's such a
to
fighter.
come-
She's
yeah.
a survivor. And that's
Yeah.
what I loved about this film.
Yeah.
All right.
So.
I want to thank Alka. Thank you. I want to thank
you.
Adorama. I want to thank Seth Miranda. The script is produced by David Negrin, edited by Zoe Alexander. Reminder, if you like the Script Podcast, please give us a 5-star review on iTunes and subscribe to the Script YouTube channel. Join our Facebook page by searching for NYC Screenwriters Collective. Follow us on Twitter at ScriptFeed. You can support the Script Podcast at patreon.com/thescript. And happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving to you, David. Enjoy your turkey.
Thank you. Gobble.